It's really easy for me to come on here and just tell you guys Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, and Jahmyr Gibbs, all those guys have league-winning upside at running back. Anybody can tell you that. What I'm looking for personally is the next Chuba Hubbard, the next Chase Brown. And I've been doing this research now for 3 years, and it led me to both Chuba Hubbard and Chase Brown last year. So I'm going to walk you through the exact research to find an unexpected running back league winner in 2025. So make sure to go down there, drop a like on this video, and subscribe to the channel to show your support, because I know that you're going to get value from this video today. So what I did essentially in these last couple of seasons was I wanted to find the guys like Chuba Hubbard, like Chase Brown. But the other thing that actually led me to this research before those guys was Raheem Mostert in 2023. If you remember Raheem Mostert, he was like a really late round pick in 2023 drafts, and he ended up being the running back 2. Guys like Kyron Williams, guys like Josh Jacobs in 2022, this is the research that I started to do because these types of guys were insanely valuable in drafts. So essentially there's this tool on RotoViz that you can use to basically go back to the last several years of underdog drafts and see what ADPs were for particular players. So I went back and I found 4 guys that were league-winning, unexpected running backs who provided so much value to your team based off of draft capital. So Raheem Mostert in 2023, again, he finishes the running back 2. But he was the running back 27 the year prior, so his ADP was 152.5. So that is an unbelievable value that Raheem Mostert was able to provide you in 2023. So Kyron Williams that year, he was the running back 6 finish, and he really was on pace to be a top 3 running back. The only problem is that he ended up missing a couple of games. But he was the running back 91 the year before, so he was really irrelevant with the Los Angeles Rams that year. So his ADP that year was 239.5. So this guy was undrafted. Like, very, very few teams on Underdog that year had Kyron Williams on their teams. It was so rare if you got a Kyron Williams team, but if you did, it paid off really big. Travis Etienne was really on the border for me to be included in this particular list because he was not a tremendous value. His ADP was 44 in 2023, but the only reason I like to include Etienne in this research is because in 2023, before the start of the season, I predicted that he would be that year's Josh Jacobs. So I ended up being right about that. He was the running back 3 in 2023, and the previous season he was the running back 17. So that's still a really big plus to your fantasy team from last year, and at a 44 overall ADP value, that's still really tremendous value right here. Josh Jacobs is the last guy, really the catalyst of what made me begin this research in 2023, because as we all know, that guy was a super great value that year. 79.8 overall ADP at a running back 3 finish, and was the running back 16 the year prior. So it's really easy for me to come on here and tell you guys, draft Bijan Robinson, draft Saquon Barkley, draft Jahmyr Gibbs. They're league-winning players. Everybody understands that. What we're trying to do is find league-winning running backs at a discount value because they're out there every year. And if you'll notice in that group, 2024's running backs weren't on there. And the reason for that is because everybody inside the top 12, they were not unexpected league winners. These guys were definitely drafted as pretty valuable prospects in drafts, which means that drafters got a little bit smarter. But the top 15, there's 3 names in here that ended up being really good values in drafts as well. And it was Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, and Chuba Hubbard. Now, what you'll see here in a couple minutes is that the research that I did leading up to last year's video that was the same as this, it actually led me to both Chase Brown and Chuba Hubbard. So Chase Brown in 2024, he finishes the running back 12, and the finish the year prior was running back 63. So again, even though it looked like opportunities had opened up for him because Joe Mixon had left, he was still being drafted at the 103.2 ADP on Underdog. Like, that's a really affordable price for a running back 12 in fantasy. So that ended up being a tremendous value. Bucky Irving was also an unbelievably great value in Underdog drafts. Running back 14, finish in 2024, and of course he was a rookie, so that's not available, but his ADP last year was 157.7 overall. That is getting tremendous value on a top 15 running back in fantasy football. And again, what we'll go through here in a little bit is a lot of these types of guys have the same type of statistics the previous year. And all that really led me to my guy last year, Chuba Hubbard. Now, if you're aware of this channel, you know I was so big on Chuba Hubbard last year. He was my most drafted player by far in 2024. Now, Chuba Hubbard was the running back 15 in 2024. Felt like it should have been higher, missed a couple of games. Running back 26 the year prior. But what the best thing about Chuba was, and why I ended up falling in love with him, was he was valued as like the running back 50. He was 137.6 ADP in underdog best ball drafts last year. That's crazy value. So essentially what I wanted to find were what the commonalities were between these particular guys on this list. And when you combine both the guys in the upper tier, the guys who are finishing as top 6 running backs, with the guys in the lower tier who are finishing as top 12, top 15 backs, you're always going to see the same exact thing. So what led me to doing this research in the first place, trying to find the Josh Jacobs of 2023, was when I noticed that I split it up into 2 different halves of the year. And I went through what he did in week 1 through 9, and then also what he did in weeks 10 through 18, and what I could essentially glean from that. So when you add up all these types of running backs here, cheap values ended up being great league-winning types of running backs. What you'll notice is in weeks 1 through 9, they did not exactly have the league-winning type of season that you would expect from them the following year. Like, all these guys are basically around like 12 carries per game. Some of them didn't have any carries per game. Some of those guys like Kyren Williams and Chase Brown were totally irrelevant the previous year, weeks 1 through 9. You would never think that these guys could eventually become a league winner in fantasy football. A lot of them also were just kind of inefficient. Chuba Hubbard was not particularly efficient, 3.9 yards per carry. Chase Brown also 3 yards per carry. Josh Jacobs, weeks 1 through 9, had 3.8 yards per carry. So this is the type of situation where you have to look at and say, okay, well, something obviously changed here for these guys to have this type of numbers right here, and you would be exactly right. So if you go to weeks 10 through 18, if you notice on all of these guys, with the exception of Travis Etienne, something changed. Weeks 10 through 18, everything was better. The carries per game, the volume went up. The yards per carry, the efficiency went up. The targets per game, they went up. Again, volume and then total yards per game. Everybody except Travis Etienne. And I guess Bucky Irving, because he was a rookie last year, everybody's went up. So essentially, this is going to be as almost specific of research that I could basically go through to find these types of league-winning running backs in 2024 and now in 2025. Except for one thing, which was last year when I was about to just stop doing my research because this was as specific as I could get in finding commonalities with these types of running backs. I actually ended up finding something else that was really interesting as well. If you notice here on the top shelf of guys right here, so Kyren Williams, Raheem Mostert, those types of guys, they all had a rookie in their running back field the year that they ended up breaking out and becoming league-winning backs. So I think that personally is what helps tie into the lower ADP and makes them a cheaper value. Because when you look at guys like Devon Achane, who was obviously a great running back in 2023 in his own right, but Raheem Mostert, his price was significantly lowered post-draft because they had Devon Achane. Then you look at a guy like Kyren Williams, who Zach Evans was not tremendously hyped as a prospect, and he obviously hasn't done anything in the NFL. But at the same time, you add him into an already crowded room with Cam Akers and Royce Freeman, it just felt like he was not going to be that breakout back from the backfield. Then you look at a guy like Travis Etienne. Tank Bigsby was there that year in 2023. So a lot of people thought that he was going to lose out to Tank Bigsby that year. Ended up not happening at all. And then when you look at the Raiders that year, Zamir White was also a guy that people at the time, believe it or not, had lots of hype on Zamir White. That was the year that they played the Hall of Fame game. Zamir White looked like he was going to be the starter. And so everybody was like, I want nothing to do with Josh Jacobs. Ended up being a huge mistake. So again, it's a very interesting commonality here. So essentially, all these guys, the boxes that they are checking is that in weeks 1 through 9, their situation was not great from a carries perspective, from a total volume perspective, and from an efficiency perspective. Then weeks 10 through 18, they were absolutely so much better on every metric. Volume, efficiency, everything was better. Yards per game, they were just playing much better football the previous year in weeks 10 through 18 compared to weeks 1 through 9. And then all these guys on the top shelf had rookies in their backfield, which in my opinion was lowering their ADPs in drafts. Then you look at the bottom shelf of guys, and none of these guys except for Chuba Hubbard had rookies. And again, Chuba Hubbard was a league-winning type of back this year. But you can look at guys like Chase Brown, like he had Zach Moss and Travion Williams. Neither of those running backs are viewed as fantastic prospects. And again, neither of them brought the hype of a rookie, but Chase Brown ended up still being a really good value in drafts. Bucky Irving was the rookie. I actually included Rachaad White on last year's list of potential guys like this, and Bucky Irving ended up being the guy that you wanted out of Tampa Bay. So he's the only rookie in this particular category right here that's actually made it happen. So this is as narrow as I could get the research right here. And again, this is extremely valuable because it's going to help you find guys that are really, really affordable values in drafts that have potential to be top 15 running backs. The value that brings to your team is absolutely enormous. You get the right guy, you're going to hit really big in an underdog draft or even in a home redraft league. So here's the guys that was on the list last year. Again, just to show you that the list of guys and the strategy works. I had Rachaad White, Devin Singletary, Chuba Hubbard, Javonte Williams, Zamir White, and Chase Brown. Now, if you'll notice on here, I liked Chuba Hubbard a lot, and I discussed him throughout the rest of the offseason. I also liked Rachaad White, was wrong about that one. Javonte Williams was wrong about that one. So I wanted to show you guys out of full transparency that I didn't get every one of these right. I liked Javonte and Rachaad White better than I liked Chase Brown. So I was not 100% accurate on Chase Brown, obviously. But number one, he did make the list. And that's the only thing that matters. If you make the list, take a shot on the guy that you believe in the most. So here's the guys that I love this year, and they fit the criteria. So we have Tyrone Tracy Jr., who has an ADP of 104.7. Now, Tyrone Tracy Jr. right now is being overshadowed by Cam Skattebo, obviously. And Cam Skattebo is a back that I really like. So this one doesn't really fit my eye too well just based on the look of things right now. So what you can see is in weeks 1 through 9, 9.9 carries per game, 5 yards a carry. That's really good efficiency. 2.3 targets per game and 62 total yards per game. Then when you look at weeks 10 through 18, his carries per game went up. His yards per carry, the efficiency went down, which is a little bit of a concern. But again, a lot of those types of guys, they did end up not doing great on one particular category. But targets per game, they went up. So overall, his volume shot through the roof because Devin Singletary was not really around very much. And his total yards per game also went up. So again, you look at the running backs in this room. Cam Skattebo, Devin Singletary still there, and Eric Gray. So a lot of people right now are drafting Cam Skattebo above Tyrone Tracy Jr. He fits this criteria right here. So if I was you, I would try to take the shot on Tyrone Tracy Jr. in a couple of different drafts. He's not my favorite, particularly out of this list of guys, and we'll get to my favorites here at the end. But Tyrone Tracy Jr., if you can draft more than once, I would take the shot on Tyrone Tracy Jr. because he does fit this particular criteria. Jaylen Warren is the next guy. This one, I'll be honest, does not fit my eye either because I'm a Steelers fan, long suffering at this point, ever since Ben Roethlisberger left. Jaylen Warren is just a part of a bad offense. And Jaylen Warren, of course, is being overshadowed as well because of Caleb Johnson coming in. Now, I want to make it clear. I love Caleb Johnson as well. This was a running back that I had way higher than most consensus in the dynasty community. I liked Caleb Johnson as the third best running back in the class. So Caleb Johnson going to Pittsburgh as a Steelers fan, I really like the fit long term. But Jaylen Warren, again, fits the criteria right here. 104.8 ADP. So basically has the same ADP as Tyrone Tracy Jr. He had 6.8 carries per game, weeks 1 through 9. 3.7 yards per carry. That's really low efficiency on really low volume those first 9 weeks. 2.3 targets per game and 36.3 yards per game. Then you look at weeks 10 through 18, everything was better. He had more carries per game, better efficiency on a per-touch basis, more targets per game, and 67 yards per game. So Jaylen Warren, again, with Caleb Johnson and Kenneth Gainwell in this backfield, being overlooked right now. I will in the future take a shot on Jaylen Warren, again, while he's not one of my favorite backs on this list. Tai Spears is a name that I'm growing more and more on. Tai Spears is an interesting player. So obviously, he's going to play second fiddle, in all likelihood, to Tony Pollard, at least at the beginning of the season, right? At least that's what everybody expects based on his draft capital, which is a 135.7 ADP price point on Underdog Best Ball Drafts right now. So this is an even more affordable guy than Tyrone Tracy Jr. and Jalen Ward. And again, fits the criteria to a freaking T. 6.6 carries per game, weeks 1 through 9. 3.5 yards per carry, weeks 1 through 9. 2.4 targets per game, weeks 1 through 9, and 38 total yards per game, weeks 1 through 9. Then you go to weeks 10 through 18, 7.3 carries per game. Volume up. Yards per carry, 3.9. Efficiency up. 3.3 targets per game, volume up again, and 49.4 total yards per game, volume up. So this is also does actually have a rookie running back in this backfield, and it's Khalil Mullings. But it's obviously not a huge name. Most people are not concerned from a volume perspective for Tai Spears or Tony Pollard that Khalil Mullings is going to come in here and take advantage of these two guys. Some might be, but I would say mass consensus is not. I think the majority issue of why Tai Spears is going lower in drafts is because of Tony Pollard. But again, this is a guy that I'm actually kind of rising on, and I'll discuss him just in a little bit. Jerome Ford is another guy I really have not historically particularly liked, but I do think that he belongs on this list because he fits criteria, basically. Jerome Ford is almost undrafted as well. Like, the value that you could get on this guy, theoretically, if he hits, is enormous. 207.9 ADP. Almost undrafted territory, and in a lot of drafts that I've been in, he has not been drafted. So I've been keeping a much closer eye on this since I've done this research. Everything was basically better except for carries per game and targets per game. Weeks 10 through 18 versus weeks 1 through 9. So again, he does not fit it perfectly, but he does for the majority of the part fit it because the yards per carry efficiency went up and the total yards per game did go up as well. And then he also has not only one, but two running backs that are rookies entering this backfield. So obviously, all eyes are on Quinshaw Judkins and Dylan Sampson. Everybody's forgetting that Jerome Ford is there, leading to this almost undrafted price point for Jerome Ford. I will be taking Jerome Ford at least a couple of times in the future in my drafts. Audrey Esty is another one of my personal favorites on this list. Audrey Esty, not a running back that I loved out of college because he's just not super fast. He does not fit a lot of metrics that have typically supported really good backs in fantasy, but it's a guy who's got lots of opportunity. And this guy is basically going undrafted. You have to reach for him in underdog drafts right now in the 18th round. You have to go find this guy. 215.1 ADP, but all those guys who are being undrafted, they're basically being valued as a 215 or 216 ADP. But this guy, everything was better except for the efficiency number. And that's only because, in my opinion, he's not going to be a 20 to 25 volume type of guy on a per game basis. He does have a role, and I think he will succeed in that said role. So even if he's like a top 36 running back, I believe that he has value being on this list right here because the value that you could get as your last overall pick in the draft, if you have a top 36 running back in your 18th round in an underdog draft, there's tons of value there. So Audrey Esty is a guy that I believe could be this type of running back because I don't see him, again, as a 20 to 25 carry per game type of guy, especially if you add on targets. I don't think he's that type of running back. But I do believe goal line yardage and short down situations and even some runs between the 20s, you will see from Audrey Esty because they have talked about him this offseason already. And when you get guys like RJ Harvey, a rookie in the backfield, there's excitement over him. Not really particularly big on RJ Harvey, and you still got Julian McLaughlin. This backfield is still wide open as far as I'm concerned. So I think Audrey Esty is actually a really sneaky one here. And then Trey Benson. I will say this, he doesn't exactly fit this one to a T. Like, he obviously did improve on everything except carries per game. from weeks 10 through 18 to 1 through 9, but Trey Benson did improve enough in all these categories, and I do truly believe this is a league-winning type of player this year, so I'm going to make him in this list right here. And again, he had basically the same amount of carries per game in the back half of the season versus the front half of the season. His yards per carry significantly shot up, though, and that's a really important thing right here, because with Trey Benson, he actually gained yards per game on basically the same amount of volume. He was able to get more yards per game because he was a much better player in the second half of the season versus the first half. So again, this guy at a 140.2 ADP, this is a guy I believe has tons of league-winning upside because James Conner is very injury-prone and is at a bad age, and Amari DiMercato was not drafted to be the success plan for James Conner. That was Trey Benson. So Trey Benson is definitely a league-winning guy, and he is one of my favorites. So now you could see my favorite guys in green. My particular favorites right here, my top three: Tai Spears, Audrey Esty, and Trey Benson. So again, these are not guys that you would expect to be league winners. That's the point of this video. Tai Spears, I think, has possibly the highest amount of upside. I think there's a chance that he could be the running back one on a volume per game basis and just a touchdown per game basis. I think he really does have a good shot to finish above Tony Pollard, who is much older than Tai Spears and is not a particular player that I thought looked enormously great last year. Rookie quarterback, he's going to get lots of opportunities out of the backfield from Cam Ward, and I think he could easily take over as a starting back. I like him a lot this year at his value. And then I like Audrey Esty because he's basically going undrafted. You have to search for him to be able to draft him. If you hit on even a running back 36 finish from Audrey Esty because of goal line opportunities, because of short yardage opportunities, and even some opportunities between the 20s to give you enough volume and enough touchdowns on a per game basis to give you a top 36 finish, you will be extremely happy with your results from drafting him basically in your 18th round with your last pick. And then Trey Benson also, I think, has tons of upside to particularly be a back season league winner. I think he'll start out as a 1B to a 1A James Conner, but I think over time may end up just being the better running back in general or the beneficiary to a James Conner injury. Like I said, this is actually my favorite research to do during the offseason at this point because it's led me to Chuba Hubbard, Travis Etienne, Chase Brown, those types of guys over the last several years. And the chances of you doing really well in one of your best ball leagues because you hit on one of these types of running backs is so freaking high. I won $19,000 playing underdog best ball last year because I hit on some of these types of guys. So if you do want to give yourself an opportunity to win big in underdog using this particular strategy, go down in the comments. There's a link there to go to Underdog. You can use code FVN. They'll match your first deposit 50% up to $1,000 in bonus cash. There's Best Ball Mania that's open right now. They've opened a couple other leagues, $12 buy-ins, a $6 buy-in. There's plenty of leagues open right now. Give yourself a chance at some big money using this strategy right here. So let me know what running backs on this list that you like and that you don't particularly like. And if you want to see some of the riskier players that you're taking right now in drafts, click on this video right here.